All right. How's everyone doing? Good? Okay, I'm gonna take your silence as a yes. Cool, so what we're gonna do today is we're gonna take the little demo that we did yesterday and we're gonna use alamofire to make the API requests. And I'm gonna show you guys how to basically download third-party frameworks, which are called pods, into your file, right? So, all right, let's do this. After we do that, I'm gonna show you guys some extra, little extra goodies that are not in the platform, and I don't think they're in there, specifically for some reasons. It's kind of like a cheat code, right? You don't want to use it too early on in the game. Yeah.
Are you recording?
Yeah, it's recording. Okay. Yes, Caesar.
Sorry.
It's being recorded.
Okay.
Okay, so this is what we're going to do. We're going to grab the project that we did yesterday, or not this one. It's this one. It's called let me see, Star Wars API demo. Copy that. I'm going to paste it in here in the desktop. I'm going to open this guy up. Or actually, I'm not going to open it up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open up this folder in my terminal. Right now, I have a little shortcut to do that. So I opened it up in the terminal. It's in the project folder, right? And the first thing you're going to do, if you have not already installed CocoaPods, you're going to run this line of code, sudo gem install CocoaPods. Now, I already have it installed, so I'm not going to run that. For you guys, it's like a built-in thing for Mac. You just run that, it'll install it for you on your computer. Now, once you do that, we're going to create a pod file. So now, if I open up this folder here and look inside of it, you see that there's two things. There's this folder for the project and then the blue, the Xcode project file that we click to open the project, right? So those are the only two things that are there. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to run pod init. And then here I have an extra file, a third one, right? This is called the pod file. So what we're going to open up this pod file in, let's say, Atom, or it can be Sublime or any kind of text editor. So I'm just going to drag it into Atom. And now you see this, it has, the target, which is the project, and then you're going to add your pods under this hashtag pods for whatever project name it is, right? So in this case, we're going to add pod alamofire 4.4. And then I'm going to save it, okay? So, and then I can close it. We're not going to use that file anymore. So how do I know that alamofire is version 4.4? I have this link here. You can click on it to go to the GitHub for alamofire. Usually in these pods, they'll have a part where it says installation. You just click on that, and here via CocoaPods is the most popular way, and that's what we're going to do with the 4.4. And that's the line that I used. And it's going to be in this PDF that I sent you, okay? So once we add that into the pod file, we save and close the pod file. And then in our terminal, we install it. Pod install. So it's going to install alamofire. It's going to take the data from the pod file and install that. Very similar to node modules in me. Once it's installed, you see in your folder now, you have a bunch of other stuff. So from now on, we're always going to open our file using this white document, little icon here. Not with the blue one anymore. I've had students in the past, Slack me at 3 a.m. is like, it's just not working. Open it with the white one if you have pods, right? That's the only thing you need to remember, right? So open up the white file. First thing you're going to do is you're going to try to build this. So Command B. When you build it, you see on top it says building alamofire. It said that. So it's integrating the new pods into your file. Now, back in the day when this was Xcode 7, there was a lot more things you had to do. You had to literally mess around with all the dependencies. Nowadays, you just Command B, it'll just build everything for you. Really convenient. Okay, so now that that's done, how do I know that it's working, right? So the way you know is you go to the file, you open up a view controller, any view controller, and you try to import that thing that you just made, right? So I'm going to try to import alamofire. And if it auto-completes for me like that, then I know it's already integrated, right? So now I know I have access to alamofire, so I can import that. Now, let's see how we would use alamofire to make our request. Right, so down here, I listed all the instructions. Make sure that you enable HTTP transport. We're using the file that we did yesterday, so we already did this part yesterday. Now, it's really easy to use alamofire. This is the code you're going to do for the GET request. This is the code you're going to do for a POST request. It's all there. Usually when you type it out one time, you're just going to copy and paste it for all your other projects. It's not really going to change. Okay, so I'm just going to very quickly convert yesterday's code here to using alamofire. So let's see what we got to do. So we have our URL. We no longer need the URL session. We don't need any of this stuff anymore, right? So all of this from the vanilla version of how you do it is gone. Now, all we do is we say alamofire dot, or hold on, let me build this real quick. Sometimes if it doesn't autocomplete, you need to build it again. Alamofire there we go, request, and then we have this, the third one here, which looks like what we want, right? So we're going to click on this guy, and the URL is just going to be the URL. The method is a .get. The parameters are nil. We don't have any parameters right now. The encoding, the encoding is going to be JSON. Now you can do it like this, but we can also do it like the way I did it here. So we got URL, method, parameters, and headers, right? So we're going to get rid of the encoding here, and we have the headers, which is also going to be nil, and then at the end of it, we're going to do dot response JSON. Okay, and then curly brackets, response in, and then that's it. All right, so yep, we can move this to the next line if we wanted to. And here, in this block of code, we're going to perform action on response. Right, so in this case, we're going to try to let the JSON result equal to response.result.value. So let's see. Okay. So we're going to safe unwrap it if let JSON result equals to response.result.value as NS dictionary. Then we're going to print JSON result. All right, if we run it, it should do the same thing as before, but now with much less code. All right, so we're using alamofire now. Yeah, there we go. See? So we have the same data, and if we want to get a list of all the names, we do the same thing as we did yesterday to kind of, to twist the arm of the data to get the ones that we need, right? So it's, we have an object here, we're going to go into the results category of that, and then that's an array. So we're going to say if let result array equals to JSON result of result, And then here we're going to have to say as ns array, so we can loop through it. Then we're going to loop through this and be for the result in result array, let r equals to result as, it's going to be as ns dictionary again. Then we can say print r of name. Right? So we run this. We should be able to see all of the names of the Star Wars characters like we did yesterday. Okay, yeah, I still have this. So we're gonna let result array equals to this. Oh, it's results with an S, right? So because it has an S here, so that didn't even happen. Okay, so now let's rerun this again. So it's important to look at the data you get back first in order to peel inside and see what's up. Okay, so here we have optional everything. So we're just gonna safe print it. If it's nil, then it's not gonna crash. And it won't print out the optional there. Yeah, there we go. See, we have all the names. Right, so we did the same thing as we did yesterday, but now we did it with alamofire. So you have the code here for the post request. I'm not gonna do a demo on the post request. That actually requires you to have an API in the backend to handle that. So just know that the code is here. If you're ever gonna use it, you can reference this. alamofire has really good documentation as well. If you go to the alamofire, the site with this link, it'll have all of the goodies, and you can read more about it. There's also different flavors of alamofire. There's like alamofire images, which is what I used to cache some of the images from the Star Wars thing you saw yesterday. But yeah, it's pretty straightforward. You just download the pod, install it. You can use alamofire now. Question? Why do you want to use it? It's just overall better. It's better than the original, like the way that we did it yesterday. It's faster. It's more efficient. The framework has been built and it's used by a lot of companies that actually, like, I don't know if Facebook or Instagram uses it, but a lot of apps out in the App Store uses that. So it's one of the most common iOS CocoaPods. Yeah. So if you can use it, why not? The thing with code is that it's really great because you can think of it as, if you can spend X amount of time, like an hour or like 3 hours, like making something a little bit more optimal, then that little bit more optimized result will continue on forever until you optimize it more. So the cost for making your product better is just your time. And it's sustainable. It's sustained throughout the lifetime of that product. So why not do it, right? So, okay. Now, are there any other questions about alamofire before I move on? Right, it's all here. You're gonna get this, right? So quickly talk about the goals. End of today, final steps. Tomorrow is gonna be bucket list. What is this for? So this will be the last assignment. I want to say just don't worry too much if you can't do everything in the advanced section. It's nice to know, but it'll be easier for you to, it's something that is easy for you to come back to and then do later on once you have better foundation with me, right? So if you're struggling through this, ask me for help, ask me for my code, but don't like stress too much and pull your hair out over not being able to do it. I'd rather you focus on the intermediate stuff and have a good foundation of that, and then study that and pass the exam, as opposed to reaching for this advanced API things and then not passing the exam, right? So none of this stuff is going to be on exam. Now, the thing I'm going to show you today might be helpful, right? So this might be helpful. Okay, so these two things, it's not on the platform, and I don't know, I'm not exactly sure why, but it feels to me that it's kind of like a cheat code, right? So remember back in the day when we were, I'm just going to close all this, we were passing data, you know, like matlibs or like back and forth between view controllers, and I know Caesar has trouble doing that, right?
Thanks.
So wouldn't it be great if I can, whatever data I get from a view controller, I can just stash it in like some persistent place, and then everywhere else I need that, I can just go over there and grab it. Instead of having to pass it between the view controllers, what if I just pass it to like an overarching, you know, file that is always there and never changes? That's the app delegate. That's what the app delegate is for, right? So in mean, if once you start learning Angular, there are these things called Angular factories, which are the same kind of concepts where when the page first loads, the instance of this factory will load. And then as you go to different pages, different controllers will load. New instances of it will load as you go to different pages, but the factory is consistent. It's the same one. So if this controller is about to leave, it can tell the factory, hey, I got this stuff, save it here. So then when the new controller comes in, it can ask the factory, hey, do you have that? And the factory will give it to you. So it'll always be with you, right? So you can persist that data locally. Now, we can get the app delegate programmatically, right? So let me just create a new project here. Or, you know what, I can just use this one. So let's say, or not this one. Okay, this is my app. All right, let's create a new one. We're just gonna call this, Wednesday extras. Okay.
You're not using core data?
No. This has nothing to do with core data. All right, so we create a new project, and let's say in the app delegate here, oops, don't know why I did that. So let me make this a little bigger so you can see it. In the app delegate, this is the file that loads every time the app is open for the first time. This is what controls all of the storyboard and the view controllers. Like, this is like the mastermind of everything. It's underneath everything, right? So the app delegate will do all of this stuff. But this guy itself is an object. So it has properties. And we can give it some properties. We can say variable, message. And this message will be string, and that is equal to hello world. Right? And now, because it's a variable, we can set it from any view controller, as long as we have access to this object. So here, what I'm going to do is when I load the page in the view did load, I am going to, I'm going to go and load the app delegate and access its properties. Right? So the way you do that is with this line of code right here. Right? So we're gonna create a constant, call it appdel. You can name it anything you want. UI application.share.delegate as appdelegate. And this will give you your app delegate. So if I do appdel dot, I should be able to see all of the properties in there. All right. So the reason why this is not working, I think, is because I need to build it. All right. So once it's built, now it should be able to read my changes. There we go. See, we got appdel.message. Right? It's the message that we sent out. So if I print this message, I should be able to see hello world in my console. And I got that from the app delegate. So anytime I save anything to app delegate, using this method here, I can go retrieve that data from any view controller. See? There we go. So I can totally set that as well. You know, I can say appdel.message equals to, hi. And then from some other view controller, if you get it, it'll say hi. right? So you can save data or cache data in the app delegate, and it'll be available to any view controller at any time as long as the app is running. If you close the app and restart it, it gets erased because the appdel will restart, right? So that's how you would cache data in the app delegate, right? It comes in handy if you have many storyboards and different scenes. Another thing I want to show you is how you can load up view controllers without using segs. So segs are cool. You can do a prepare for seg to go into this, to set some data. But what if I have like, a million scenes here, and I don't want to have like a billion lines connecting everything, right? I want to go from one view controller to any given view controller on the map by doing it just programmatically and pushing it to the top like that, right? So you can do that using this next thing I'm going to show you. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create another view controller here. And the main thing here you need to know is that when you create this view controller, you must give it a storyboard ID. That's how you will find that, right? So I'm going to name this, new VC, like that. And then maybe I have another one over here. Let's just name this. I'm going to name it after a color. Let's say blue. And then I'm going to name this one red. Okay, and we're going to make this guy, we're going to make it blue. And then we're going to make this one red. Okay, so there's no segs connecting any of these guys, but they have their storyboard IDs. Right, this one's called blue, this one's called red. Right, now I have a button. I put a button on my first view controller here, and let's give it some constraints. And I'm going to call this guy blue. I'm going to make another one. I'll just put it at the bottom. Give it some constraints. And I'll call this one red. Okay. So now, if I make some actions, for these two buttons, so this one, I'll create a button, say blue. It's going to be a UI button, touch up inside. And for this one, I'll just do the same thing, but for red. All right, so when I click on the blue button, I want to transition to the blue view controller. When I click on the red button, I want to transition to the red one. All right, so here's the code to do that. So what we're going to do is let me close this. This is what we do. Okay. So the first step is we are going to instantiate a new instance from the storyboard of the destination view controller. Right? So we're going to create a constant called VC. We're going to do self.storyboard.instantiate view controller with identifier, the thing that we identified it as. So this case, blue. Right? And we're going to cast that as the special view controller that we have. If it's, if it has a view controller file that is a custom one that you set, you're going to cast it as that. In this case, we didn't do it, right? So it's just a vanilla VC, which is fine. But if it is a special type, you need to downcast it. And the second step is going to be, display it on top of the current VC, right? So self.present VC, animated true, completion no. There we go. All right, gonna unwrap that. So this one is red, right? And then the other one is blue. So this one is blue. All right, so if I run this, and now there's really no way for me to go back because I didn't have that button to dismiss, but if I did, I can just dismiss it like that. So I just want to show you that you can do that programmatically without using segs. So blue, the blue comes up. There's no way for me to dismiss it, so I'm just going to restart this file. If I click on red, it should take me to the red view controller. Right? See, there you go. The way I learned it in the beginning, when I first learned it, I did it without the segs. Because back in the day, they didn't have those segs. Yeah.
So to go back to the original, you would have to do that same process, just with another button on one of those pages that says
Here.
back or something.
I'll,
Because you can't
let's do this.
Or could you have like a show? Oh no, that
No,
would
this
not-
this will be presented modally. So as long as you have something on the other, the second view controller that will dismiss, then you can dismiss it. So just to illustrate the point, I'm just going to make it real quick. I'm going to create a CocoaTouch class. This guy is going to be a UI view controller. I'm going to say, color view controller. Create. And I'm going to say, let's create, let's make a event handler for when I click on the view. All right, so I'm going to open up this file that I was working on because I don't remember the syntax to do that. But if I go to the view did load, we're going to add a gesture recognizer. Right, so I'm just going to copy this. I'm going to close that. Let's go back to our Swift file. So we're going to create a gesture recognizer for the root view. Okay, so I'm just going to call this, view tap, UI gesture recognizer. The target is going to be dismiss me. This one is going to be self.view, user interaction enabled, and then self.view, add gesture recognizer. It's going to be this name, view tap. And then the last thing I need to do is make this function called dismiss me. Here I'm just going to do dismiss, or what is it? Why is it not? Okay, I'm going to build this, see if it will build. Yeah. Stupid. Thank you. Okay, now I'm going to build it. Good, it was built. Okay, so here I'm going to do this miss animated true completion nil. Right? So when I click on the view, it should run this function here. So now if I go to my main storyboard and I set these two view controllers as the color view controller, then these guys should have the same class. The last thing I need to do is I need to now cast this as color view controller, right? Otherwise, it won't have that. It won't be presenting the right one. There we go. Get rid of this exclamation point, and now everything should work. Blue, click on it. Not dismissing. Damn it. Maybe you can't do it for a root view controller. Let me see if this actually, it's actually running this function here. Okay, it's not running that function. So It's supposed to be a gesture recognizer. So, well, let's just make a we'll just make a view. So we'll put a view in here. We'll just put it down here. Okay, give it some constraints. Do the same thing for this one. Okay, so we're going to have this view over here as an outlet. So dismiss view. Cool. See if we can do this one too. That's the same thing. Okay, so over here, instead of self.view, I'm going to do dismiss view. There we go. Okay, well, it's not recognizing the selector.
Is there a reason why all this is in the did receive memory warning function
Oh,
and not the what? I was
Go, Jeffrey.
okay. That was dumb. Yeah, so yeah, that would be why.
Probably why.
That's why it wasn't working. Okay, so I guess the view thing would have worked, right? So, well, I mean, let's just see. Yeah, I don't. Why do they give you this in the beginning? It just seems like overkill.
They also tell us to use extensions and all that, so it's kind of like just a lot of stuff.
Okay, click on that. It's going to dismiss. Okay, so the selector worked. So if I wanted to just not use the dismiss view and have it when I click on the main thing, so say self.view, and then over here I do self.view as well, and let's just hide the dismiss view is hidden equals true. Then we should be back at square one. When we click on the main view, anything in the view, it'll just dismiss itself. Right, so click on anything, dismisses itself. Yeah, thank you, Jeffrey. All right, so that's what I got for these little extras here. I think the caching data in the app delegate would be useful in the exam as, like, you know, worst case scenario here, I can make it work like that, right? Although it is important to understand how to use it through the segs and doing the delegate stuff, right? So any questions? No, we're good? Cool.